Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. Today I'm back in where the magic happens, in my little flat on top of a family. We're back here, we're back to humble beginnings, and that's because, well, I'm back because I have no other choice. But what I'm trying to say, the video today is I'm 4 weeks out from my first official race, the Paris Marathon, which is going to be on the 17th of October 2021. I'm super excited for it. I've been working really hard recently, and in today's video I'm be explaining exactly what my peak week of a marathon training looks like before I start my quest of a 3-week taper period, which is going to allow my body time to recover in order that I'm super nippy on race day. 62.13 miles, 100 kilometers is my max week here. I've been recovering a little bit from my 5k PB over the other week. I had a little bit of an Achilles injury from that. It was more of a strain, I feel like, kind of lower calf slash Achilles. I had 4 days off running, I believe it was, overall. I think I only ran for 3 days last week, which is really unfortunate, honestly, because that last week was my second peak week, so my second most intensive week. I had an injury and there's nothing I could have done about that. It's natural a feeling really when you miss some training due to an injury and you start getting like, oh, you almost feel like you're failing yourself, you're not working hard enough, but realistically there's nothing you can do about it. You know, you just got to concentrate on trying to get fit again as quick as possible. Monday's a rest day, pretty self-explanatory really, no distance and no pace. I did go on a little bit of a walk, but doesn't really need to be said. I'm just speaking about running here, and I will do what type of rest day I do maybe in the coming weeks before that, because I don't do absolutely nothing. I do a little bit of active recovery, some other exercises, mobility, stuff like that. But anyway, going into some of running specifically, Tuesday is a tempo run, 12 kilometers, 7.45 miles. That equates to 2 kilometer warm up and a 2 kilometer cool down. In between that, 8 kilometers at race pace or target race pace, which I've got on here 3 minutes 40 per average kilometer or 5 minutes 54 per average mile. Now, even though I'm trying to run a sub 2 hour 45 marathon, because of my 5k time being, surprising myself being so good, I feel like I'm cutting myself a little bit short if I go for 2 hours 45. Whenever I've ran in the past, I've always felt like I've had more in the tank. Now, I know it's better to feel like you've got more in the tank than go too fast too soon and spunky load, if you will. Sorry mom, my mom's watching this. I don't even spunk, mom, I can't, don't let it freak you out. Actually no, I can. So tempo runs are really designed to get you used to the pace that you want to set on race day. The way that I like to get used to my pace is focus on my breathing in relation to my strides. I breathe in twice from my nose and out from my mouth like every 2 strides. So like breathe in like and then out. That's the way I like to do it. I did that on my 5k as well, but I'll be doing that at this marathon as well. Now, that's obviously completely different paces. My 5k was around a 3 minutes 7 average kilometer, and this is a 3 minutes 40. Now you might be saying, how do you hold your breath, or how do you manage to breathe like that? The same at the quicker pace is the same as this slower pace. I'm breathing like more aggressively on my 5k run, like I'm forcing the air inside of me. Now the breathing is really important, because if you breathe correctly, you're going to get in as much oxygen into your blood as possible. The more red blood cells the body produces, basically the amount of oxygen carries around our blood, the more oxygenated we're going to be when we're running, meaning that we're going to run at a faster pace and be more comfortable with it. Now, this tempo run is like an anaerobic run, which basically means a more explosive workout where we'll be burning predominantly carbohydrates. Now, it's pretty self-explanatory. I've gone over that run here, but this is quite an important run because I think getting familiar with the pace you want to set on race day and getting comfortable ultimately as best as you possibly can do within your training plan is a really important run. Now, I actually did this run yesterday and I didn't manage to hold pace, and there are 2 main reasons. It was a very difficult run that I did, it was a lot of uphills, and I wasn't wearing any shoes with a carbon fibre plate. I was wearing the wrong footwear really, and that makes a massive difference. If I was wearing my Nike Vaporflies in relation to my Nike Flyknits, which was what I was wearing the Flyknits yesterday, and yeah, they just don't have the carbon fibre plating and they're softer, so the whole point of those shoes is to be injury proof, so they absorb the shock rather than spring you forward at a more aggressive trainer with that carbon fibre plate. You're going to get more injuries than that, but the faster shoes, which you wear on race day. Now I didn't wear that and it made a big difference, and as well my body is kind of beat up at this stage in my marathon training, so don't let these runs, if you can't hold it, even if you feel like you should be like, I can't hold it for 8k, how the hell am I going to hold it for 42k? Then you trust me, when you have your taper period, you have to just have faith in the process, and you can surprise yourself because you have everything in your advantage. You have the crowd there, which gets inside your ego, helps you run a little bit quicker, and you also have, you know, the correct footwear, and you've got a lot of carbohydrates in your body from the carb load. So I was a little bit disappointed, if I'm honest. There's not a lot of tempo runs that I can't keep pace, but I think yesterday in particular, the few days off, like normally when I have days off it makes me feel good, but yesterday I think because I still felt my injury a little bit, probably subconsciously in my mind, it slowed me up a little bit, and it was really hot as well. Making up a lot of excuses, but basically I'm trying to say, if you're doing tempo runs and you can't stick to it, don't let it fully knock your confidence. Sometimes you just have bad days in the office. So moving on to Wednesday, it's an aerobic / moderate pace run. So an aerobic run basically means a run of which we're going to be burning predominantly fats, which is less explosive movement, just like walking is an aerobic exercise, a perfect example of an aerobic exercise. This is aerobic / moderate. What I mean by that is just a moderate pace / aerobic pace. The reason why I've got that, you might be a little bit more informed if you look over at the pace. So 4 minutes 20 average kilometre pace to 4 minutes 40 average kilometre pace, which works out to be 6 minutes 58 average mile to 7 minutes 30 average mile. Now the tolerance is quite big on this. The main reason is just listening to my body. Some days I find it much easier to run really comfortable at 4 minutes 25 average kilometre pace, and some days it's just nice to run at a slower pace, but I find it quite uncomfortable to run at a slow pace sometimes, and my body just wants to go, but I don't let it fully go because I still want an aerobic workout. Because when you're running, even though all these runs, they're still running, it's like you're almost training completely different workouts. It'd be the same thing as like doing 25 reps in a gym in exchange to doing 6 reps. You might be doing the same exercise, but one's going to be strength building and one's going to be completely different. You know, you're building up more endurance within that muscle the higher reps that you do. All these runs do completely different stuff, so it's really important to trust the process. So even though 4 minutes 20 is the quickest pace I want to go here, if I'm honest, it probably won't be that quick, but that's just to give myself a minimum pace that I want to run, if you like, or maximum, however you want to look at it. If I start going quicker than that, then it starts to not become an aerobic exercise, and then I'll just be doing anaerobic exercises all the time. Now anaerobic exercises are good because they increase your pace, improve your VO2 max, ultimately allow you to run at a faster pace and be more comfortable with it. But if I just run like that all the time, then my aerobic base is never going to improve, or it will improve but nowhere near as drastically as it would do if I did specific aerobic exercises. So if you imagine a marathon, simply putting it, anaerobic exercises are going to get you used to running at a fast pace and be comfortable with it, or be more comfortable with it in relation to the individual. And then aerobic exercises is going to give you the endurance. So you need both of them so that you can also ultimately run at that pace, but then you need the aerobic base so that you can hold that pace for 42 kilometers in this case, or 26 miles. So going on to Thursday, something that I tend to do, you'll find in these training plans, I'll tend to go anaerobic, aerobic, anaerobic, aerobic. The main reason is if I do 2 sprints, 2 anaerobic runs in a row, then my I'm just not going to get the most out of the anaerobic runs. And the aerobic runs is more of a recovery type of run, so that I can do my more explosive sessions, or the workouts, if you like to call them workouts, over the next days. So first one's anaerobic day on Tuesday, Wednesday's aerobic, and then another anaerobic work or speed work on Thursday. Now this tends to be my most common speed work. If you follow this channel, you would have heard me speak about this a lot of times before. So different anaerobic exercises. You can do a fartlek exercise, which I do sometimes, which basically means speed play in Swedish, which is not a specific pace you work into. So it's more just kind of like you might do like a few kilometers or a kilometer on and a little bit off, but it's not a specific run. It's called speed play because ultimately you're having fun with it, and these runs can be very enjoyable. However, this one is going to be more of a fixed run, or is a fixed run really. Overall it equates to 12 kilometers or 7.45 miles again. The warm-up is 3 kilometers and so is the cool down. The reason why I warm up and cool down is pretty self-explanatory really, but I will just cover over it. The warm-up, whenever I run, if I don't warm up, I find that I loosen up after a kilometer or two, normally 2 to 3 kilometers, and then I'm fully warm and my body's a little bit quicker. So I'm getting the most out of the runs, and ultimately it's doing what it says. It warms my body up so I'm less likely to get injured. And the same thing with a cool down. After you do an extensive workout, you cool down after, just to get your body moving again and helps you recover a little bit quicker, reduce the lactic acid buildup in your muscles. So within the warm up and cool down, and do this interval work. So I've got 2 times 1,000 meters or 1 kilometer, which I'll go to a track to do this workout, which is 2.5 laps of an athletics track. Rest, 2 times 800 meters, 2 laps of an athletics track, 4 times 400 meters, which is 1 lap, and then 4 times 200 meters, which is half a lap of a track. Now, something to bear in mind with this, the way that I do this in between intervals, before I had a watch, I'd stop for around 2 minutes. If you don't have a watch or anything that assesses or measures your beats per minute, your heart rate basically, if you don't have any equipment, I'd give yourself 2 minutes between sets. Obviously that's just a gauge. Everyone's going to be able to recover a little bit quicker in relation to how good your cardio is basically on the individual, your recovery basically. So for me it tends to be around 2 minutes, but I let my body come down to 120 beats per minute within these intervals. A question I often get asked on my Stravas is, when I do these runs, how come my average BPM is so low? And it's so low because after each interval I'm letting my heart rate come down to 120 BPM. So you imagine my average heart rate for this might be like 150 beats per minute, but it's because I'm starting at 120, so my heart rate might skyrocket up to 180, potentially even 190 BPM. But because I'm starting again, that's how it reduces the average. But if you look at my max heart rate, it would be much, much higher. But I thought I'd explain that because that's a question I often get asked, how my heart rate is so low when I'm doing these quick workouts. And it's just because I'm doing intervals, so I'm letting my heart rate come down and then I go again. Now, these runs are actually really enjoyable and they're very difficult. They weren't enjoyable for me when I first started doing them, but I get used to that uncomfortable feeling because this does feel very uncomfortable. But one reason I like doing it at a track, because there's always a few people around the track. I used to just do this off my own back, and I find I'm using my ego to my advantage if I do it at a track, because there's other people there and I want to show them I'm going quick, so I'm almost using my ego on my side to get the most out of each individual interval in these runs, because that inner bitch in your head just wants to stop when you do these because it feels so uncomfortable. But another way to see this is, if you're unsure about why you're doing it in intervals, your heart is a muscle. So to strengthen any other muscle on your body, imagine you're in the gym and you're bench pressing, you do it in intervals or in sets. You might do like 10 reps and then wait for a couple of minutes, do another 10 reps, wait for a couple of minutes, do another 10 reps, and so on. That's exactly what you do when you're strengthening your heart. You do it in sets because the intensity you'll be able to get, you know, you're building the muscles in your heart essentially. I mean, you're not getting a huge heart, but in relation, your heart's going to be able to pump out more blood every beat. That's how you get a lower heart rate. Friday is another aerobic run, and well, I wouldn't say this is aerobic actually. This is a bit of an anaerobic run also, because my heart rate gets very high on these runs because the hills is a trail by me and the hills are incredibly steep. But it's really good because these aren't as harsh on your body, but you're still getting anaerobic work in your heart. You're running at a slower pace, so your body isn't getting too fatigued, but because you've got to work hard going up the hills, potentially higher altitude as well, your heart rate's higher. Now, your muscles do get sore of these, but you use different types of muscle groups for when you're running uphill in relation to when you're running downhill. Now, running uphill, you use a lot of the back side of your legs, so your calves, your hamstrings and your glutes, and running downhill, you use a front side of your legs, so the front muscles inside of your calf and your quads as well. So when you're doing this, I always find the next day my hamstrings, but mainly my glutes and my calves, are absolutely burnt out. After this run on a Saturday, it's just an aerobic easy run. This is the easiest run of my week. For the main reason is I want to recover from all these sessions in the past few days before my longest run, which is the most important run of my week, which is done on a Sunday. So the aerobic run on a Saturday is pretty self-explanatory. 14 kilometers, which is 8.7 miles, which is a pace of 4 minutes 30 or plus, or 7 minutes 47 miles or plus. Now, the reason why I've got plus is because this pace really doesn't matter. This is literally just about getting the miles in my legs. I tend to just do 3 breaths in, 3 breaths out. So breathe in from my nose, out through my mouth, which is the most efficient way of breathing when you're running or doing any exercise. If you can do that, that's how you produce the most red blood cells and get the most oxygen into your body, by breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. If you breathe in and out through your mouth, then you're more likely to get stitches. So this is something that I concentrate on, and it's just really slow. I have to concentrate to go slow. I find myself so often wanting to go quicker, but something I like to do is just to really just take my time. You know, maybe I've got something on my mind and start thinking about that, and you don't have to focus on your pace too much. If I start getting in my head going, oh, this is boring, then I just want the run to finish, and yeah, it's just not enjoyable. But it's an easy run, just do it first thing in the morning, get it out of the way. And this is the most boring run of the week, if I'm honest, but it is what it is. It's got to be done in order to make my body recover for the next run, which is my long run on Sunday. Everyone has different preferences on how long to run on your long runs in your peak week. Some people do 20 miles, some people do 22, even 24, but you should never really run the distance of a marathon within your training plan, because you just basically go past a point where you're not actually bettering yourself at this point. You're just doing too much harm. You know, you're working too much in the red zone, so you're going to be too fatigued on race day. So my long run is what I did last time, and I felt great on race day after a 3-week taper. I did a 34 kilometer run, which works out to be 21.12 miles. And I do this at another aerobic pace of 4 minutes 20 to 4 minutes 40, which is the same pace as earlier with my aerobic to moderate pace on Wednesdays. These runs on my long runs, though, I did want to touch on it. This week in particular, because it's my longest run of the week, I like to make all my training as routine as possible, so that on race day I feel less nerves, I feel less overwhelmed, and everything feels a little bit more comfortable. That goes by what the race time is. So find out what your race time is on your marathon or half marathon or just 10k race, whatever it is, and try and get used to your workouts to be at the same time as you set off them. It's basically just about getting your routine like a really well-oiled machine. So with my race being at a 7 start, I might get up at 5, maybe eat straight away, prep my breakfast, you know, eat the type of foods that I'm going to eat on race day, and trial and error my foods, find out what works for me and what ultimately makes me feel comfortable, gives me like the most energy on race day. That's what I like to do for these runs, and again, it's just to make me feel comfortable on race day, so just gives me a little bit of peace of mind. I know I've got everything covered, and it just helps my mind, puts my mind at ease, because running is such a mental battle just as much as it is physically. I believe in doing as much as you can for the mental side of it, you know, strengthening your mind, if you like, before or just alongside, like taking a holistic approach. You might get X amount of benefits if you're doing a training plan and doing all the physical side of it. You might be doing all your workouts, but if you never train in your mind, if you're running with headphones all the time, if, you know, maybe you don't meditate, maybe you're not doing these things that familiarizes yourself with your mind, so the times of your runs, you might be overwhelmed on race day, and then all of a sudden you have to rely on headphones. But you have all this extrinsic sources of motivation. So if I can just control as much as possible and rely on intrinsic sources of motivation, which is basically my mental toughness. I don't run with headphones on my marathon training plan. I do my long runs at the same time as I run my actual race, so everything's comfortable. I'm going to be less overwhelmed on race day, and ultimately I'm going to have a stronger mind, because again, running is so heavy on the mind. It's such a mental battle. I don't see the point of doing all the physical sides of running and not touching on the mental side. I believe that's why I've improved so quickly at running. I only started running in January 2020, and I believe I've got so good at it quick is because I almost leave no stone unturned. You know, I go over everything from the mental side of it to the physical side of it, through the shoes, the equipment, everything I possibly can do. when you do all these little fine tunes, you know, everything, like all this helps. So anyway, that's my marathon training covered. And over the last few weeks, you might be a little bit confused, so I'll explain it. I've been explaining my fantasy football over the last few weeks, so I figured I'll go over it in this week's video. I haven't had a great week, or weeks. On this week's series of Wolsey Green FC, the historic fancy Premier League club, let's show you the points from my last update, of which I put in Ronaldo, I put in Jota and Jimenez for a -4 for Callum Wilson, Bruno Fernandes and Danny Ings. And I had another great game week. I dropped from 2,000 in the world to 5,000 in the world, but I'll show you the team because ultimately I did pretty well. In game week 4, I got 74 points, 4-point hit though, but I'll go through my team because I had a decent week. Robert Sanchez with 6 points in goal, Trent Alexander-Arnold with another haul, 12 points, average 8 point something points as Trent, absolutely chuffed with him. Luke Shaw got 5, Veltman with 6 to clean up that double Brighton clean sheet, paying my fay for them. Mo Salah with 8 points, did well, scored a penalty I believe. Jota, how he only came away with 3, I don't know. Greenwood got 5, got the assist. Benrahma blanked, which I wasn't really chuffed with if I'm honest. I didn't like the look of Benrahma in that game. Antonio -1, which gave me some problems going into the week because I didn't really want to get rid of Antonio. I had him at 7.5 million, so I had a lot of cash invested in him. But ultimately, Ronnie, the man, Ronaldo returning back to the Prem and getting me a lovely 2 goals. Jimenez blanked as well, which is very disappointing. Now, let's go into this game week because I've made a mistake. 51 points game week 5 and I dropped massively in the ranks down to 42,000 out of 8.2 million. I was 5,000 the week before. Now it's still a good start, I'm still doing really well. To be this high up in the rankings this early tends to be well because a lot of people have used chips. I had a torrid week though, so I brought in Brandon Williams for Luke Ayling. The reason why is because I needed to free up some cash to swap Benrahma out for Rafinha. Rafinha had Newcastle and I thought he would absolutely thrash Newcastle. And my thinking was I couldn't see Norwich keeping a clean sheet and I couldn't see Leeds keeping a clean sheet. So I was hoping Brandon Williams and Luke Ayling cancelled each other out. And then the extra cash, I thought Benrahma was going to blank against Man United. And it turned out to have just been an absolutely horrible move. Brandon Williams got 0 while Luke Ayling got 2. So with the -4, I'm already 6 down there. And then Rafinha got 8 and Benrahma with a crazy deflected shot, and then he took all the bonus points somehow. He didn't create a chance with Jared Bowen, he got 10 points. That means I was 8 points down what I would have done if I wouldn't have made my transfers. I was absolutely devastated with it honestly. But it was a very unlucky week if I'm being completely honest. Trent missed out, which me and Williams came in for Alexander-Arnold. Now I wasn't even looking to start Williams, I was looking to start Brownhill, but Trent was injured, which meant that Williams came in. Jota, how the hell he missed that chance? Just again, very unlucky. Rafinha should have scored more, and just a very unlucky week. Jimenez missed a gilt-edge header as well. You win or you learn, ladies and gentlemen. I'm still doing very well, and Wolsey Green is still a historic club, and I'm still top of all of my mini-leagues. So, you stay in school. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week where I'm going to be doing my longest run on my peak week, the 34-kilometer run. Going to be back to the vloggy style videos, so thank you very much for watching. See you all, and I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone that's been commenting in my videos. I do see it all, and I know it's similar faces. I appreciate all of you. The new subscribers, come on board, welcome in on the road to 1,000. I'm going to hit it within the next few months, I reckon. That's what I'm trying to say. What was that?